All right, welcome back to the second half of the final day of the People's Reset Mexico 2025. It's been amazing here. I hope you guys who are watching at home are having a great time tuning in throughout your workday or whatever else you're doing. We're so grateful to each of you. Please do keep commenting on Odyssey, on YouTube, on Telegram, wherever else you're watching from. Let us know how you're feeling, what you're thinking, what's been your favorite talk, your favorite discussion point. What have you learned so far? What are you going to change in your life? And I want to ask those same questions to our audience here in person. If I could get a little hush over the room for a second. Thank you, guys. We got some more speakers coming up, and I hope you guys will give them your full attention. But I was asking the online audience, and I'd love for our folks here in the room and at the venue to think about this. What have you gained so far over the last 5 days? What are you hoping to take home? What lessons have you learned here? What new connections, business relationships, romantic relationships, partnerships, whatever you've got going on. Somebody told me last night, and I hope I'm not ruining it, but somebody told me they were going to propose to their lady here. If you're in the room, did you do it? If not, I'm sorry if I ruined it. But no, he said, I'm going to go downtown. We're going to have a beautiful walk, and it's because of this event. You guys got us in this wonderful place, and I think it's just the time for me to propose. So I hope she said yes, wherever you're at. All right. So I want to thank a couple of our sponsors before we get to our first talk. These are going to be the final sessions of the afternoon. And again, I want to remind everybody to please be here at 4:10, 4:15 when we wrap up the main part of the show and the live stream. We close everything down. We're going to have a big thank you and announcement for 2026. We're going to get all our speakers and volunteers and performers up here, and we would love to fill this room up with everybody before we all start going our separate ways. I also want to take a moment to thank two of our sponsors, Weston A. Price, the Weston A. Price Foundation. They do have a table out in the lobby. I know many of you are already familiar with them. They've been around for a few decades now, and this is their fourth time sponsoring our event and helping us make this happen. And not only that, but this time they brought one of their representatives. For those who heard Galia Kleiman speak the other day on our Permaculture Day, she had a lot of really great information, and she's here with us representing Weston A. Price, so we're grateful to them. You can find, of course, all the links to our sponsors are listed at thepeoplesreset.org. You'll scroll down and see our little sponsor highlight. I'd also like to mention one of our sponsors who couldn't be here, was going to be in person, was going to give you guys a bunch of free salt, but they couldn't make it. Anybody heard of Redmond Real Salt? That salt company, they got like a blue-red bottle. So one of their employees actually is an attendee of the People's Reset, and he came and had a great time and was like, I want to get this company to work with you guys. I think our visions are aligned. And so we had some discussions, we worked it out, and they have been a supporter of us. They were hoping to be in person, but it couldn't happen this year. Hopefully we'll get to work with them again, and we're just grateful to them and every single one of our sponsors. So please give a big warm applause to our sponsors, because truly we couldn't do it without them. And I say that like I wish we could invite hundreds of people here to Mexico and host you guys here and put on this event and it be completely free. I wish that was the world we're living in, but unfortunately the event does cost $40,000 to put on, and we're able to make that happen with our sponsors, with our vendors, with the folks who attend in person and all of that. So thank you guys for continuing to allow us to do this, because we will be back in 2026 without a doubt. All right. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speaker of the afternoon. Today, we're talking about building free and conscious communities. As I mentioned earlier, all the speakers are interpreting that and through their own lens and with their own message. And our next speaker is doing that exact thing. And she is a powerful communicator of the message of liberty, of the message of voluntarism. The more I get to know her, I think she's also a very enlightened, conscious person who does care about the world beyond the five senses and that deeper level of healing that we all really need, which is really intrinsic to my work and to this event. So I'm so excited to have her here joining us for the first time. Please give a warm welcome to Amanda Rose.
Thanks, Nick. All right, let's wake up my laptop here. All right, so is everybody feeling pretty good after lunch? Y'all fed? Everyone good? Yeah? All right, cool. Not too sleepy or feeling hungry still? All right, cool. Because I know how that is. If you're like, still got needs to take care of, I don't want anybody to feel like if you got to run out, you got to run out. That's cool.
Feel better?
Yeah. So, how many here, by show of hands, just Cage, I actually know a lot of your faces, but I know I don't know some of you. By show of hands, how many of you have absolutely no idea who I am? Cool. Sweet. Okay. Wow. Okay, cool. So I've been in this movement for I would say I really started getting into this movement probably 2014, but my awakening started in 2011. And my legal name, if you want to find me on Facebook, is Amanda Rockwitz, which is spelled Rachwitz. But I go by Rose because I took on Larkin Rose's last name. How many people here know who Larkin Rose is? All right, cool. So a few people here do. I've been in this movement for about 10 years now, and it went from being feeling like almost nobody, like a few people, 100 people or 1,000 people on the internet talking. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. That's where I live right now. And the way I grew up and the way a lot of my friends grew up is we grew up in the United States, and we grew up indoctrinated by the school system and taught to believe in politics or a version of religion, or we have different belief systems. And I'm no different than all of you in that sense. I have my own history and my own story. And in 2011, I was married to a man who had taught me how to question some things just because he had at the time. And this is not Larkin Rose, the man that I'm with now. This was a very, very not good man for me. But in 2011, I was with this man, and he got me to start questioning some things. And the universe led me down this path where I was going online and I was looking at the history of the United States school system, why I was taught what I was taught, what made me who I am, and inside of this whole system, the little girl that believes what she does and does what she's told and believes in these laws and this government. I started looking at the monetary system. I started going down these rabbit holes. And it's just because I was lucky enough to have the curiosity to do that. So in 2011, I started doing that. And between 2011 and 2014, I went through a lot of emotional just processing, the stress and the trauma of realizing a lot of the way I saw the world, or a lot of the way I was taught to see the world, was not necessarily accurate. So where we are now, how many people in this room have experienced something to that degree at this point? Raise your hand where you now know things are not what you thought they were exactly, and you're very aware of that. Cool. All right. So humanity is waking up in the sense of they're starting to figure out where they've been out of alignment with how reality really works. What's the rest of humanity been up to all this time? What have humans been doing? And I went through, I think what a lot of people started to describe, I wasn't the only one, but in the movement, a lot of people started to describe, like, we all feel like we're going through the 5 stages of grief. Show of hands, anybody feel that? Yes, okay. It's like the anger, denial, then the bargaining, and then just the grief and the sadness, because there's a part of you that's like, there was a version of me that believed all these things, and that's not me anymore. That person has to die and go away, in a sense. Like, I have to give up those beliefs because they don't align with reality. And that's the version of us realizing my identity and who I thought I was isn't what I thought it was. It wasn't in alignment with the way things really are. So one of the first things I started to realize was I looked at the school system and I thought, okay, I was homeschooled at first, and my parents raised me at first to have time alone, to have a space to understand that I could hang out with my little kid brain, playing with toys, playing outside, being in nature, just being, unaccosted by outside forces, people telling me what to do, just playing, just being. And then they taught me the basics of how some things work, like language, mathematics, some of the basics of physics. And they were trying to homeschool me because at the time they really had religious reasons. They were trying to keep me away from the school system for religious reasons. But they protected my peace for 11 years of my life in a way I didn't realize they were doing. And they were trying to manage their own emotional habits to protect that peace. They were trying to manage the stuff they knew was going on and keep it from me and my sisters. And it didn't work. But they did their best. And at about age 11, I was thrown into the school system. And the school system just did everything it could to destroy my curiosity. And a lot of us now know that. We now know that the school systems weren't designed to help us learn and be educated. They destroyed who we are. They destroyed our curiosity. And I realized I actually had that curiosity. I had a point of reference for remembering when I was fine, and I understood how things worked, and I could think clearly, and I had ambition and goals and thoughts, because at age 11, I was starting to be a little artist. My parents had given me instruments and put them in front of me. They had started to let me understand that, I can do anything I really want to do. I can learn to dance. I can, sing and do whatever. And then their stressors in their life and the system we're in, basically, it took its toll on them, and they didn't know what to do. So they felt like they couldn't give me that emotional attention, and they put me into school. And in school, that warred on my psyche. And so a lot of humanity right now is where I am now, where we all look back on that and we know that wasn't good for us, or we know we've gone through things. Even if you didn't go through the United States school system, maybe in your culture, you went through beliefs that were really not good or really toxic. Maybe the religion that you were taught or the school system that you were in, wherever you were in your country, really wasn't good. But a lot of us realize now that we were taught things that aren't good for our brains, and they go to war on who we are, right? And they start to change who we are. And I started to realize, I remember what it was like to just be able to think about what I like doing throughout my day, go throughout my day and do it, plan what I wanted to develop about myself, learn those things, and then have fun doing it. And the school system just threw that all off course. So how does this all tie into where we are with the awakening and government, and the fact that there's authorities out there that have been warring on us for 6,000 years and want us to not be ourselves, and want us to not work together, and want us to not enjoy being who we are and being in alignment with that curiosity? We're going to go on a ride here. Follow me, guys. So I'm going to talk about why knowing ourselves and recentering and balancing out matters so much. Some people are like, oh, I just want to get into the action. I know that there's problems in the world now. I just want to go and do stuff. Okay, cool. But have you done the thing that a lot of us have had to do? Have you looked at who you are and who you know you want to be, or who you have been throughout your life? Because when you say, I see something wrong with the world, or I want to go do this, or I want to go do that, you're a person in time with a bunch of beliefs that have led you up to right now. And all of those feelings and emotions and things can be based on who you are in a moment that's unassessed. You haven't looked at a bunch of things yet. So you go, I want to go and I'm going to start an off-grid community here with all of these people. It's going to be great. Okay. Do you know who all of them are? And do you know who you are? How long have you known all of them? Do you know that you like that lifestyle? Do you want to live that lifestyle? Do you have to live that lifestyle? These are questions that a lot of the community wasn't asking at first, because we were all in the same boat. We were all waking up in 2011, 2014, 2015, and just going through those 5 stages of grief. So a lot of people were just going, okay, now I think I got through acceptance, and I don't know. I want to do something. I want to fix this, right? So in 2016, I showed up to the second Anarchapulco. How many of you know Anarchapulco or have been there? Okay, a few of you do. Anarchapulco ended up being up to 3,000 people at its biggest at one point in 2018. And I was there for it, but I was there for when it was only 200 or 300 people. And I watched it grow. And what I watched happen over the course of a few years was interesting, because a lot of amazing things have taken off as a result of Anarchapulco. It was a lot of amazing, beautiful miracles that had to come together. A lot of freedom people from all over the world and all walks of life came together, waking up to, I'm not who I thought I was. This world isn't what I thought it was. And I don't know everything, so I need to help fix things. But all these people came together, and a bunch of them were really young too. 20s, me, 20s, my friends, 20s, 30s, some even younger, fresh out of high school were there at this event. And then you have people older too, all walks of life. You have people from every different country you can imagine. And a bunch of us are also still raw. Some people aren't even out of the 5 stages of grief in 2016 when I go to Anarchapulco. People are still in anger or grief. Or they're still in a sort of panic because they're realizing the world isn't what they thought. And they're processing that. And they show up at Anarchapulco just looking for answers. Imagine all these people with all their different emotional wirings, right? All their different backgrounds and perspectives in one place, But none of them have done and got to the place yet in this timeline where we've done any of the centering and the looking at, okay, now I know everything is the way it is. But who was I to start, and who do I want to be in all this? And how do I get back to me in all of this? And my role in all of this. No one had done that yet. So how many of you heard of the HBO series, The Anarchists, that came out? There was a story told because a bunch of my friends, a couple of my friends, Kim and Todd, who actually are part of the reason that series happened, filmed a bunch of what happened throughout Anarchapulco and happened to befriend me and Miranda Webb and a bunch of other people. And they just got video of a lot of stuff happening. And what it accidentally portrayed for the world was that if a bunch of people who believe in freedom but aren't necessarily on the same page come together, some intense and maybe not so good things can go down. And how many people heard about that? Just like some stuff that went down that was not that great for people involved. Right. And and I'm not saying that those things are not inevitable. They happen when people are growing and learning together. But part of the reason that so much chaos has been happening recently is that a lot of people in the world right now are very overwhelmed, are very uncertain, and they're not sure of their place in the bigger picture of things. So follow me for a minute with that. The two main points I started to take away every day as I started to come through acceptance and living through realizing that freedom people needed to work together, but they needed to work on themselves, was two problems arise with humans getting together and working together. A lack of understanding their reality is what leads to problems. And I would use this in the most basic sense. Like, obviously, if I don't know what I'm doing, going to hike up a mountain I've never hiked, right, I can hurt myself. Whereas if I do know what I'm doing and I prepare, I may not hurt myself, right? It's just understanding our reality. So people not understanding their reality and how it works, and then people not understanding themselves. These are the two main things. If you remember these points, take these away. What are the main problems, the sources of the problems? People not understanding reality around them and how it works, and people not understanding themselves. How much do you think, based on all the programming and indoctrination you've received throughout your life, that you really understand how reality works? Maybe there's a lot you're realizing you really don't know, and you have no way to prove it firsthand. And so humility in that space of just, oh my gosh, I'm a product of that system, and I'm not okay right now. I have work to do so that I can be more in alignment with reality. That humility is the precursor for succeeding at actually working together with your fellow man right then and there. You cannot work together until you start with what's wrong first and what do I need to fix. You all come together and nobody knows where we're all at, and then all the problems come out while we try to do something, and the project falls apart. And I've watched dozens and dozens of ideas and very idealistic things try to take off over the last 10 years, and heard many stories because I'm connected to lots of people in this community. And they don't take off, or they fall apart because too many of the individuals involved didn't look at the two main things long enough first ahead of time. How much do I understand my reality? And how much do I understand myself? Those two things, again, how much do I understand reality? And I mean, every aspect of reality has to be looked at when you realize you didn't actually know reality before. That means if you never learned math, might be a good idea to really understand that. Why? Because a lot of the world's being manipulated because they don't understand that by the people that do know math. By the way, part of the reason I like math so much is because I understand it better than other people do in a way. There are things that I'm not manipulated by, so I can see through certain things. So when fear tactics are used, I can go, that's bullshit. That doesn't add up. It's not in the math. It's not in the math. And so if you don't understand reality, you're manipulated. If you do understand reality, you're stronger. And I really want everyone here to remember that you have to bring it back to the center of everything, the change you see out in the world. You're not a god. You can't wave a magic wand. So it all has to start with the capability coming out of this tiny little being right here. And if you can't align any of this, or you haven't got it aligned, then the moment you step foot on Mount Everest, you're going to face plant. You're not going to go anywhere because you haven't even figured out what your plan is, and you don't have a plan, and you don't know. You're just going to stumble. and you're going to fall. So I decided to make a list of like, for this talk today, what are the things that over the last 10 years I had to learn? I worked through the traumas of an ex-husband that was very controlling and psychotic, and he had a lot of his own issues to deal with. And I wasn't functional and able to think straight and even think about finances or work or do things until I could work through that. And I was working through a lot of that and like over the course of my process of waking up. And it wasn't easy. And a lot of my friends were working through this. They were figuring out that, oh, I'm not only not free and I'm not who I thought I was, but I need to look at all of my relationships. So the list of things that you're going to want to look at, it's going to start with number 1. You're going to need to conquer fear. And fear is like a huge thing. I know a ton of people in this movement have talked about it when we get to spiritual stuff. But when I say fear, I mean fear of everything. And that can be really hard because our animal body is designed to have survival concerns, right? I'm just designed to like have something, an aversion to not wanting to fall off that stage and hurt myself. But fear, including when it masks itself as worry and concern for my safety, is very, very distracting and damaging, and a huge part of the battle for your mind and mind control going on right now isn't about the physical world right now. It's about the mental, because our potential is huge if we don't have fear in the way. And they're playing a game. The people that want to put out information are playing a game with your minds right now of how much can we look more powerful than we are, seem more capable and fucked up than we are, and how much can we make you feel small and incapable and like you can't do anything. And that fear is the thing that you have to overcome, because that's what they want you to feel like, who am I to fix my life or to help others around me? I'm just little old me. It's exactly where they want you. And they also want you afraid of, but if I do this, what if this? What if I do this? What if this will happen? If I'm vulnerable, what will people say about me? If I try to tackle this business idea I have to lift people up, I don't know how it will work. That fear that's holding you back is exactly how control freaks stay in power. Right? Yes. Right? You can clap for that, man. That's a clap thing. Like, you have to conquer fear. So I'm not going to spend much time telling you guys how to conquer your fears. A bunch of you guys have the tools and the things right here in this community, and you've seen a lot of things. It's out there, and you're working on that yourself. But I want to validate that for some of you, that is huge. I had to get past that. When I talk about fear, let's get real here. I even mean like there's a bunch of things a lot of us know are wrong with the world technically. But I live in that world, and I'm not going to abandon my son and my family in Arizona just because like maybe I don't like all the aspects of the city of Phoenix. But the city of Phoenix is just a city, right? It's just an infrastructure. It's houses, it's buildings, and people are there and they have lives. And it isn't bad and wrong because it's not ideal for some people to live there that way and they don't love it. Like the city itself isn't bad. We know that the force and the authoritarianism and the contamination of control is what makes that not okay. And so I had to get to a place where I didn't even have the fear of like, oh, what if I can't like change my whole matrix and lifestyle around me right now? Okay, I'm in and of the first world. I live in Phoenix. It's a city. Is that so bad? I like amenities. I like the first world. I like things it has to offer. I don't like cops or the military or bureaucracy or things that interfere with free trade. I don't like people harming other people and hurting other people. Part of in getting rid of the fears of like, well, this isn't ideal for my health, this maybe electrical grid, maybe you don't want to live on that. Part of getting rid of the fear of what this person could maybe do to me over here with their belief system, or getting rid of the fear of my body not quite working right, or getting rid of the fear of all of this. All of that fear is part of getting rid of that is understanding that like there's only so much you can do right now. Right now you're sitting in a chair in this moment and all kinds of news could be flying at you from your phone. What can you do about it though? Literally right now. Yeah. You can turn it off. And the thing is each one of us has a path in life that we have to take right now. There's only so much we can do where we go, I'm going to put this foot in front of the other and figure out who I am. Then I'm going to put this foot in front of the other to figure out who I am. And this foot in front of the other to figure out how I can level myself up. Then my friends, then this, then this. And if we are constantly distracted by what everyone else's paths are outside of our own locus of control, just stop moving. We get stuck. We get distracted and our head starts spinning. And it's like, what do I do? I don't know. There's this out there. I could do that. There's people out here suffering. I don't know. I could do this. Center. What can you do in this moment? Who are you in this moment? What are the things that lit you up when you were a child? How many of you here like to move? Like be physical, like be active, move, do something. Raise your hand. Yeah. I hope that's like all of you, but like if your body physically keeps you from doing that, I totally understand. It has kept me from doing that. Part of being a kid is moving, right? I incorporate movement into my life and I make sure I feel alive and I make sure I get vitamin D because the sun matters. And I make sure that I go out and I look at animals and I just shut my mouth and I watch what the tiniest little beasties in the desert are doing for fun. And then I think of what I want to do next. And then I think, how can I level up from that space where I have friends who get to live their life thinking, I wake up, what would I like to do next? And how do I want to pick up my friends? And each of us can do that right from where we are. This doesn't have to be a physical thing where right now we can hurry up. We can't grab everyone in the cities and yoink them out and put them on the land off grid overnight. That's not going to happen. The businesses of the world are going to come together and wake up, the small businesses, the medium businesses, the big businesses. And then different types of worlds are all going to exist right next to each other in terms of how people want to live. Whether you want to live in a dirt hut or you want to live in some cool giant palace somewhere, or you want to live like in something in the in-between, like a tiny house. The problems with the world stem from control and manipulation and violating one another. And how we choose to live isn't the part that matters most. It's not like how I choose to grow my food exactly this way and decorate my house, what cars I choose to drive, whether my house is big or small. It matters how we treat each other while we live the lives we want. That's what matters. It matters that we say, you're allowed to be you over there and live how you want to live. If you want to rock that lifestyle over there, you rock it. If you want to go and have the fancy city amenities, as long as none of that is funded by force, you go have it. But don't force your fellow man to do something they don't want to do over the barrel of a gun. And don't use the government to be the person to do that for you if you don't want to do it. That's it. That's it, guys. If your personal choices are, I want to live off grid and I want to shut out the modern technological world, do it. It takes all kinds. It takes all of us to do what we're supposed to do. If your role or your path is, I want to wake up the cities and I want the cities to thrive and be cities that are filled with love and abundance for the people that want to stay in those cities, and I want to make them more beautiful, and I want to invert the pyramid and turn government into not government, but voluntary funded services and businesses. That might be your role. Maybe your role isn't to leave behind the first world, it's to help it level up and be better so that it can level up the people struggling in other parts of the world. So remember, again, it's how we treat each other. Do not get hung up on how differently we all want to live, how differently we want to dress, how differently we want to love each other. There is so much division trying to be thrown at us right now to see each other differently based on how we look, how we talk, how we dress, whether or not we use an iPhone or an Android, or whether or not we're this color, or we came from this country, or we're this sex, or we like loving this person this way, or we're gay, or what. It's just weird how much division is being thrown at us, but we know why. And I want everyone here to remember that everyone here is still just a soul in a body at the end of the day. You have your path, but we are the same. And your role isn't going to be mine, and my role isn't going to be yours, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. So release the need to get everyone on the same page as you, and just focus on, what do I love doing? What lights me up? What makes me healthy and happy? Then build those relationships in alignment with who you are. And out from that, you can begin to pick up things. So now, do you know where I'm at now? Now I have this network of some of the coolest people I've ever met in the entire world, and there's thousands of them, and I'm connected to them through social media. So I will not denigrate that technology, because it's made the life that I have today. And now if I have a problem, or there's something going on in my tiny little crappy apartment in Phoenix, Arizona, and I need a solution, I have better experts in my phone that are closer, more trustworthy friends to me than anything in that system. And it's you guys, because I've met all of the people who were doing the same thing I was. They were saying, what is my path? How do I learn reality? How do I fix my understanding? How do I fix me? And then how do I help the world? And now I have a network of those kinds of people, and we're picking each other up. We're doing business bigger than we did before. Like, how many people here know about magic mushrooms, psilocybin? Yeah, okay, all right. So as you might know, the federal government put a big war on that, for a long time. And not too long ago, I think maybe a few weeks ago, one of my friends let me know that I think the federal government just announced that they're not going after people with the spores of psilocybin anymore. They're not gonna bother people about that. That is because a lot of the community has risen up and pushed back and said, we're making these businesses. We're selling grow bags. We're letting people grow their own mushrooms. We're spreading psilocybin to the world because people need it to heal. And we're doing it whether you let us or not. And now it is everywhere, guys, in the States. Now I have a friend of mine, Avens O'Brien, and her man, Judd Weiss, and they have a company called Shroom, S-H-R-U-M, and they're taking off. They're in over 500 stores. They're in all 50 states. And they are legally, because it is legal, selling a grow bag that is a contained sterile dirt in a bag and early stage mycelium genetics, not spores. Genetics in a syringe. They sell it on the website. You can purchase the syringe right next to, you can purchase the grow bag. They ship it to you. You can grow your own psilocybin in a sterile bag with just inject, done. And they did that, and that is not illegal. Why? Because selling you early stage genetics in a syringe is not illegal. That's not psilocybin. And selling you a grow bag of dirt that's sterile with filter strips there's nothing illegal in that. That's all that is. So they're putting this in. How many of you know about like vape and smoke shops all throughout the US? Those are everywhere. Show of hands. Yeah, okay. They're getting into those shops. They're getting into dispensaries. That's something I align with because mushrooms helped heal me and my gut when I was working on my health. Now where I'm at is I'm working with my friend Avens as one of her company's representatives to help get Shroom out to these stores so that veterans with PTSD, people with addictions, go into vape shops to get their hook, to get their fix, to get their nicotine, their vape or whatever, and they have a shot at maybe growing something that might not even just heal them, but might give them a connection back to God and who they were as a child. That is getting in all the stores. That's happening right now, and right now I'm repping that and trying to help her get that into stores in Arizona as we speak. That's an example of one thing I'm doing. Another thing I'm doing right now is our website, therosechannel.com, my husband and I, we run a website where we teach people how to communicate about the ideas of freedom through our seminar, Candles in the Dark, and we put other freedom-related content on there. But we have a friend who has his business called Anarchy Media who helps us run that website because we couldn't do it all ourselves. We couldn't do that. And he saw our struggles. He saw we were overwhelmed creatives that were struggling financially a lot. And he helped us level up our website, and he's running the logistics that our brains don't do that as well. So we want to focus on creative stuff. So we get to do the creative content stuff. And we've got Anarchy Media, which is Kason's business, helping us do the like uploading, get the website right, do the like emailing stuff to our list, do all that stuff. And I have a bunch of friends who are about to scale up their anarchist related or freedom related businesses, and they need help because they're wearing too many hats and they're ready to scale, and they need they need to pay somebody that they trust, who's ethical, who thinks like us, who's in this network, to help them run their business better for them, to help them do customer service fulfillment, order fulfillment, level up, run the website, build a website for their courses, whatever it is. And now I have Kason, my business friend, who's like, we're going to build this out. You're going to help me build out Anarchy Media. We're going to go and find the businesses and your friends that need leveling up, and we're going to help them get their businesses to the next level so they can get out there and get more financially free and get the products to the people in the United States that are going to level them up and free them and help them to understand more about who they are and more about what this world really is. And so that all led up to now, and I had to go through all of these fears in the early days of like, what's going to happen? Am I supposed to leave the first world behind? Am I supposed to give up technology? Am I supposed to do all of this? I had all of those questions, and they were all answered and easily brought back to center by me just going, what can I do right now? Who am I? Where am I in my life right now? What can I do? That's it.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.
Some more noise for Amanda Rose, everybody, if you enjoyed that presentation. Really powerful stuff. What I appreciated about that is I think a lot of people in our community, including myself, are very, very weary of cities. And, I did documentaries on 5G smart cities 5 years ago, and I think those are all very real concerns. But yes, the reality is that some people in our movement would prefer to live close to a city or even in the suburbs for whatever reason. And, and some of us do want to go to the countryside. But at the end of the day, it does take all types. It takes us holding that space for liberty, for freedom, for healing, pretty much anywhere we can and wherever we can. So really awesome presentation. We're going to continue ahead with our next presenter, who is back from the UK. Who was here last year and heard Dan? We switched roles. Last year, Dan lost his voice and tried to give a talk, and he succeeded. He did succeed. And then I lost my voice this year, but I got it back. But if you haven't heard of Dan's work, I'll just tell you briefly again. Dan and I got connected 2 years ago in the UK in Bath at another event from Friends in the Movement, the World Council for Health's Better Way conference. Dan and I did some interviews. We just really hit it off, and right away, like has happened many times at this event, I realized this person is just like me, but from a different part of the world, just as passionate, just as excited. And so we just connected really quickly, and within months, we were planning to bring Dan to the People's Reset, and we did so last January. He came here, had an amazing time, and as soon as it ended, he said, we need to bring this to the UK. And that's exactly what we did. We just wrapped up the People's Reset UK in September 2024. It was an amazing success. I'm so grateful to everybody out there. And we do plan to continue to expand. And so I knew Dan needed to come back and share his message with his full voice this time. And so please give a big welcome, warm welcome to Dan Aston Gregory, all the way here from the UK.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. Thank you, man. Thank you for having me back. And I just want to take a moment to honor Derek and the entire team, because firsthand, I've had the experience of what it takes to put on an event like this, the hours and days and months of planning, preparation, blood, sweat, and tears, conflicts. It's challenging, it's hard. And what was amazing in the UK, people came to us after the event, said they've been involved in the events industry for many years, and they could not believe what we put together on such a small team and budget. Honor to Derek and Miriam and all the team. Please give them a round of applause. And a special thank you for what a team player Derek is. He took on the sore throat, as you heard, so I could speak freely here today. So the full title of my talk is From Outer Chaos to Inner Certainty, or Inner Freedom, a no BS guide to living free and prospering in 2025. My goal for this session really is to help you here in the room and those of you at home to take everything that you've absorbed here during these days and across many of the other experiences that you've had in your lifetime, in fact, and light a fire to create a catalyst. You take all of that material, take all of that potential that is inside of you, and let it all out. Because when we come to an event like this, it's like breathing in knowledge, these huge in-breaths of knowledge. And as we expand our knowledge, as we expand our ideas, as we take in these new concepts, these new initiatives, these new possibilities, we radically expand our potential. But our potential is only latent. It requires our activation. It needs us to say, I'm going to make full use of every fiber in my being to make this dream, this vision, this potential within me come alive so I can make my mark on this short time that I have on this planet. Oh, thank you. Now, I will say I don't have all the answers to how to do that. There's many ways we can liberate our own potential. And I'm just going to share from the lens of my own experiences, because you may not believe it now. I've spoken all across the world. In 2020, I was stood on Trafalgar Square in front of this huge square full of people, 50,000 activists challenging the government. If you could look back to when I was a teenager or a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old, you wouldn't recognize the man you see on stage today in his childhood. See, I grew up incredibly shy. I had no confidence. I had no self-belief. I would sit literally and metaphorically on the sidelines, witnessing quietly what was going on around me, kind of wishing that I could do all the things that I see other people doing. Just wishing that I could do that, because I didn't have that belief or confidence inside myself. So if that youngster in me could see me today, traveling around the world, and for someone who's shy and sit on the sideline, I wouldn't even speak to the person next to me, let alone a group of people like this. Yet now I travel around the world using my voice to try and create impact and change. So whilst I don't have all the answers about how we can liberate our own potential, I can share my own story about how I overcame my own self-doubt, my own inner critic, my own judge, so that perhaps you can see some of yourself in me and therefore make some decisions for yourself that will liberate something within you that you know is there. And if you don't know it's there, I can tell you, in an audience of this size, over the course of a week, I will have seen all of you, even if I haven't connected with you personally. Same goes for you at home. We're all unique, but we have patterns. I can see the fire in you. I can see the potential in you. But sometimes we need someone to show a mirror to remind ourselves of what's already within us. So let me be that mirror for you today, so you can peer within yourself and remind yourself of that power. And by the way, I know in a room like this, I've got some extraordinary, capable people. My goodness, I'm honored to share the stage with the people I've shared with. Anna Maria this morning. Anna Maria and I, we saw each other live for the last 4 years, and for the first time we've connected 5 years later here. I know there's incredible action takers in this room. And at home. But what we're dealing with in the outer world right now, that outer chaos, is extraordinary. And there's a lot of power going into what's happening in the world right now. So it's vital that no matter what level of our potential we've already unleashed, I want you to know there's another level for each of us. And how do I know that? For the exact reason I started to say. We've come here and absorbed this energy, this knowledge. And every time we do that, we increase our potential power. Every time. But it stays potential unless we act upon it. So I want to light a fire under you today. So before we really get into it, I want to ask you one question. Are you sitting comfortably? Who's sitting comfortably? Okay, a few of you not sitting comfortably. Good. We've been here a week, Dan. How many times have you sat in this seat? You know how uncomfortable it gets when you sit on your ass for 7 hours a day, tuning all in. I'm asking metaphorically, because we only really create change when we get outside of our comfort zone. It may be a cliche, but if you're sat comfortably now, I want to gently invite you voluntarily to get uncomfortable. To get uncomfortable, because change only really happens when we step outside of our comfort zone. And even those who are acclimatized to stepping outside of their comfort zone, my dear friends, the musicians here in the front, my goodness, I can't imagine the energy as you're about to step on stage for a freestyle session with a musician. You know, that energy of like, what's going to happen? You can't anticipate what it's going to be, but you're just there, ready, present in the moment. The energy rising, you're ready to step up, and then you get the mic and you roll. You're there. You're in the moment. Each one of us can embrace that energy and step into it. So I actually want to create some discomfort in the room today so we feel that energy rising inside of us. There's always that speaker who's like, let's get everyone on your feet and do something. Let's do this thing. And we've had plenty of that, and it's beautiful, and I do that too. But I'm not going to have you do that right now. I just want you to feel that energy inside of you rising, that nervous tension that happens when you're about to do something that you fear. And I'm going to try and put that in you because you don't know what I'm going to do during this talk. You know, I'm going to keep teasing you and you at home. So the first thing I want to do is check that no one is sitting in the seat that they've sat in the entire week, next to the same person that you sat next to the entire week. If that is you, welcome back to school. Old habits die hard. So I'm going to give you a moment. If that is you and you've sat roughly in the same place or the same side, stand up now and take yourself somewhere else. Let's get uncomfortable. Thank you. One person. 2 people. 3, 4, 5. Good. And if you're in your comfort zone right now, and you know you're in your comfort zone, irrespective of where you've been sat today, I challenge you to get up and move as well. If you know there's another level. And if you're still sat down, then I ask, why are you here? I challenge each one of you now, if you know there is more within you, to stand up and find a new seat. Let's do this now. I'm going to give you a minute to find a new space. Let's shake it up a little. Let's get uncomfortable. Hey, good, thank you. So at home now, as you can see, people are moving around. I challenge you at home to do the same. If you're sat on the same old sofa, the same old chair, then get up and move. Let's get some energy in our bodies, and let's get that feeling of anticipation rising within us. Yeah. So, change requires us to get uncomfortable. Change requires us to get up and move. Nothing around us will change unless we take action and we move. I want to tell you a little story. I always used to have this little thing with heights. By little thing, I mean fear. I don't like to label it as fear. I confront my fear. I like to dance to my fear. And I used to have this thing with heights. So my wonderful wife at home, and by the way, babe, thank you so much for your support if you're watching at home. I love you so much. And my boy, Zach, he's in bed now. She bought me this gift for my birthday, which was a bungee jump. I was like, oh, nice one. Nice one. Of all the things you could buy me, you bought me a bungee jump. I have a fear of heights. She's like, I know you, Dan. You know, we've been going in together for a while now. That's why you need to do a bungee jump. And of course, I had that nervous anticipation all the way there. just like I hopefully created a little dose of anticipation in here for you. And then something magical happened. Like, you saw me rocking out to dub effects in here. Wow, what a concert. My goodness, what a show. And all the musicians here, my God, the whole evening I was just in this sense of awe, witnessing this magical creativity just unfolding in front of me. This magical power exuding from every one of the musicians. So beautiful. Each one of us has that magic inside of us. Each one of us has that ability to create. Each one of us has that ability to come into the present moment and make something beautiful happen in a moment, in a heartbeat. And then I had this magical realization on the trip towards this bungee jump. And as much as I was rocking out to the beats in the house, I'm a classic rock and roller by heart. AC/DC, some heavy guitar tunes. I've seen Presence rocking out on his guitar. I'm like, man, do you know Stairway? Can you just squeeze in a little bit of Stairway to Heaven? No, Stairway, denied. That's for you dub effects. AC/DC came on in the car on the way to the bungee jump. I was like, yes, I'm feeling it now. So that nervous energy started to convert into excitement. That nervous energy started to turn into excitement. And excitement actually is one of the greatest antidotes to fear. Gratitude actually is an even more powerful antidote to fear. You can't be simultaneously. There's actually been studies done on this. You can't simultaneously be in fear and in gratitude at the same time. Now, caveat this. There is emotional fear, mental fear, and there is physical fear. If you find yourself in a pen with a lion and you want to chill out and meditate and be grateful, it may work. I don't know. Don't be the test bunny. Just run. But I approached this bungee jump, and again, that fear came back. And then weirdly, and maybe it's just the same radio station, I call it synchronicity, but as I went up in that lift to the top of the platform, I could hear AC/DC again. I was like, yes, it's my time. I'm going to conquer this fear. And then I stepped up to the front of that crane. It was just a crane erected over a pool of water. This basically a large size elastic band for anyone who's done a bungee jump before. I'm like, fear's coming back. I'm finding myself walking backwards from the edge. Don't walk too far, because there's the thing the other side, you fall out without the bungee. And the man at the top, I never got to know his name. I can't even picture his face. But his words will last for a lifetime for me, because what he said in one short sentence profoundly altered the course of my life. In just a few simple words. He could see the nervousness in me. And he didn't get all bro on me, be like, come on, buddy, pump your chest and jump off the edge. That's not. He just looked at me and said, quietly, all you have to do is disengage your brain and take the first step. And I was like, wow, so profound. And in that moment, took the step. And then the liberation that followed was profound. I didn't just liberate myself from my fear of heights in that moment. I liberated myself from the fear of taking on things that I'd previously been too scared to even confront. So I took that step and boing, and I was screaming out loud, and the rock and roll was still playing on the way down, and I thought, yes. So it takes us getting uncomfortable. It takes us confronting our fears. But all it really takes is to disengage that part of our mind that says, I can't do this, I'm too afraid, who am I, I'm not good enough. All those voices that I'd lived my entire life listening to. Now, I told you I like heavy metal. There's going to be some people in the room thinking, I was getting on all right with you until you said you liked heavy metal. Heavy rock, that's not my thing. By the way, if my British humor doesn't translate to Mexico, I do apologize. I should have put that at the beginning as an asterisk. Next time I'll put it in the description, Derek. But imagine spending your entire life listening to music that you dislike. Imagine doing that voluntarily. You'd say, who would do that? You'd be crazy. And you'd be right. So why do we spend our entire life listening to our inner critic and paying such attention to it when there is a much more beautiful tune that we could be listening to, which is our own capability, our own power, our own abilities to make a change in the world, in our own lives? It's a much more magical tune that's available within us at any time. And all of us in this room, I'm sure, have had at least glimpses of it, that magical music. But just like I know I'm amongst friends here who are of a similar age. We know what CDs and vinyls look like. You can switch the vinyl out. You can switch the CD out. Goodness me, it's even easier in the digital world. You just press a button, next tune. And that's crazy as well. Attention deficit disorder now. It's like you got Spotify like 10 seconds into a tune. You can't even make it through an entire track these days before skipping a song. Side note, we've been talking about attention deficit this week. But my invitation to everyone here and everyone at home, and I gave this as an offer to one of our speakers earlier this week as I was talking about his talk. If you're in the room, you know who you are. I invited him to leave his inner critic in his hotel room when he checks out on Monday morning, and to do something symbolic so that you can physically see that inner critic being left behind. Because it's a choice we can all make in any moment, by the way. It may be hard because it's a comfort zone, again. It's safer to stay in the known. It's much safer. And actually, what's peculiar about the world right now in this state of flux, this state of uncertainty, is that people seek certainty and stability in the most unusual places. Which is why we come into this idea of what some people call like the black pill, this, doomsday mentality. Because counterintuitively, we get certainty from replacing one grand narrative with another. We get comfort. We find peace in that. Because, hey, if that explanation over there doesn't answer the question, I need to fill it with something else. But just like we can change the music, we can also change what we fill our minds with in order to drive ourselves forward. And you guys have been not only microdosing on some beautiful knowledge and wisdom here this week, you've been feasting on a buffet of magical wisdom that you can take home and really implement into your lives. So the first lesson is to disengage the brain and step forward. The second really relates to our own clarity. And in this intense world, the beautiful thing is we have this amazing range of possibilities. I mean, even just this week, right? There's so many things you could pursue, whether it's radically altering your technology set, whether it's embracing permaculture, whether it's taking on a new career path, whether it's embracing your health. It's just like this intense array of things. In the United Kingdom now, you can't even walk down like the aisle of the supermarket and you're like, Dan, we don't shop at supermarkets anymore. We're way past that here. We go to the organic market. I know, but there may have been a time when you went to a supermarket. And now it's like wall to wall. Like I can't even choose a bottle of like olive oil without there being like 1,000 choices. It's so intense out there. There's such an array of opportunities that it's actually overwhelming. And for me personally, one of the greatest things that actually curtailed my potential was this perpetual state of overwhelm of what should I do? Who am I? Where shall I go next? How should I apply myself? And it was this constant whir in my mind of ideas, of possibilities. How many other people in the room, by the way, are living this experience right now? Or have lived this experience? Just drowning in ideas and possibilities? Don't worry, you won't drown in your ideas. You can perfectly capably swim them. In fact, you can perfectly ride the wave of those ideas when you know how. And there's a few things I've learned over the time, because no time is ever lost. You might look back at periods in your life and think, I wish I had done this, or I wish I'd learned this earlier. I mean, almost every day I get a lesson and I go, I wish I'd learned this earlier. Just been so much easier if I knew this when I was 4 years old. Zach, I'm going to write it all down for you, my boy. That's my son. Even if I did that, he's got to carve his own path. He's got to find his own lessons. We learn by embracing reality. We learn by getting outside of a comfort zone. We learn by getting out of a seat and sitting next to someone else. So at the end of this conversation, you can say, hey, I haven't seen you yet. Hi, nice to meet you. Because there might just be a gift in that person next to you, because we don't just learn inside of our own heads. We learn by studying others and modeling others. And John Bush had been talking about this paradox of the leader-follower concept. And Tony Robbins, one of my early mentors, said to me, well, not to me directly, but from the TV, with his big hands and big head. You first have I'm not even going to try. Sorry, Tony, I love you. You first have to be a great follower before you become a great leader. Because by following others, they blaze a trail. They show you what's possible. They also show you some of the mistakes that can be made. And that's what's wonderful about these communities, because people are building these intentional communities everywhere. And it's like, well, hang on. Why don't we just learn all these challenges that's already gone before me so we can at least save 80% of the journey? Success leaves clues. So that's why the power of community will never die, because we can learn from one another. But then how do we navigate this richness of possibility and all the ideas when we're so disconnected from that innate signal within inside of ourselves, that intuitive awareness of who we really are and why we're really here? Because what I have learned is that the answers were already there all the way back to my childhood, way back. But it's until we learn how to connect the dots in our life, when we look back behind and we say, actually, I was always really curious. I was weirdly talented at building that little Lego thing, which as a child is a wonderful playtime. But then I'm a builder, I'm a creator in my adult life. Wow, I was already creating as a youngster. Our history leaves us clues. All the pieces of the puzzle are already there within us. And we actually have the finished article. We can already see the end puzzle. Those of you who are, again, old enough to have had a jigsaw puzzle, like the youngsters, I don't think they know what a jigsaw puzzle is. That's crazy. My son does. Like, my grandfather sadly passed away several years ago. He used to work in the services, the armed forces, and he was working on one of these giant airplanes, a B-52 bomber. And I'm a peace advocate, and I have love for my grandfather, and he probably did things that he certainly wish he never had. But he always worked on these airplanes, and I bought him this 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle for his birthday. And sadly, he passed away before he could even open the box. So I passed it down to my son, and I didn't expect him, well, I didn't in fact expect the box to be, when you open it, all the pieces to be loose, and all of a sudden there was 1,000 pieces on the floor. But whether your jigsaw puzzle is 4 pieces or 1,000 pieces, there are things we can do to begin to piece that together until we can come back to that final picture. And for me, there's been some amazing tools, things like the human design principle and the various different personality profiling tools. And what was fascinating by embracing all these personality tools, whether it's Myers-Briggs or the Entrepreneurial Dynamics by Roger Hamilton, even down to astrology, my own star sign. What's peculiar with every single one of these personality profiling tests, around 80% of them had this common thread throughout. And I know they're generalizations, and people will say, take it with a pinch of salt. But I've tried to like force myself into one of the other personality types, you know, like when you read other people's star signs and astrology readings to say, you know, maybe it's just a coincidence. It ain't. It fits. So if you've ever felt yourself like pushing a rock up a mountain, you're doing this work, you're working so hard, why isn't it happening for me? Why isn't this coming together? Why does it feel so hard? Maybe you're just building the wrong puzzle. Maybe you got your ladder leaning against the wrong building. It takes us that reflection to slow down and look back and say, the clues are there. And the clues were already there. I had this acronym for myself before I did all these things. I called it my bliss, because I know what I'm good at. Big picture thinking, leadership, ideation, strategy, speaking now. It's my bliss. I created a little acronym. Then I did all these personality tests. It's like, you like big picture thinking, you like visionary thinking, you like creativity. You'll tend to be a strong leader, a poor manager. And it's like, So as we unravel these clues, we put together the pieces of the puzzle, we no longer start to feel like we're pushing a rock up a mountain anymore. It starts to get into that ease and flow zone that people talk about. But it takes self-awareness, self-discovery to know what those pieces of the puzzle are. And some of the tools that have been most helpful, other than the personality profiling tools, has been self-inquiry via journaling. Who's heard of stream of consciousness journaling? Now, stream of consciousness is amazing fun. And here's what's funny about stream of conscious journaling. People even freak out about doing stream of conscious journaling. They're like, I don't know what I'll write. I don't know what I'll say. Man, gotta get uncomfortable. So when I start my journaling, if my brain is really not coming up with anything, I'm like, hey, I'm not coming up with anything today. What's that all about? And then a part of my brain goes, you're just tired, man. And then it goes, why are you tired? Stayed up a little late last night. I'm like having a conversation with myself, self-inquiry, and by the end of it, like 3 hours later, not 3 hours, I don't have time to do 3 hours journaling, I wish I did. 30 minutes later, there's sometimes these profound insights, but it can be self-directed, so you can just stream of consciousness flow, and with the moment, it brings up what's happening for you in your mind, or your emotion, your heart in that moment, real wisdom. or you can direct it, because the other lesson I've learned is the quality of our questions determine the quality of our answers. So if you want to learn how to get healthy, naturally, vibrantly in a way that fits in with your busy, crazy schedule, ask a question that fits with your parameters. And lo and behold, your brain will say, well, you could do this. From all that wisdom and potential that's wrapped up right inside of you already, because you do already have everything within you right now that you need. Believe me, you do. And you have done all of your life to this point. Even if that part of your brain has tricked you into thinking that you don't. The truth is always there, available for you, that your potential is unrivaled, it's unparalleled, it's incredible. We just got to step out of our own way and put together the pieces of the puzzle. So the third thing then is, if we have that clarity, we step into our fears, we ease over that line with that first step. And by the way, that first step, how much potential did that unlock? I tell you what happened at the time in my life. I was doing none of this stuff at that point in my life. I was still the scared child living as an adult. How many of those have we got in the house? Scared children living as adults. Some of you are too scared to admit it. Just lean into it. Dance with that fear. The third thing is then finding that conviction. That thing that leads you to burning the boats. And by that I mean you've found Pleasure Island and there's no going back. There's no retreat. But I couldn't retreat at this step of that moment, going over the edge. My wife wouldn't have forgiven me. Do you know how much that bungee jump cost? I jest, of course. We've got to find that fire within us that keeps us going no matter what. And I've never understood that, because I've always had that, despite those fears, despite those doubts, despite all of those self-limiting reflections inside of me. I've always just had this flame. And it may have started as a small flicker. And it's grown and grown and grown. And the more I peel back the layers, the more I understand myself and the world around me, the more that flame burns. And believe me, the more the chaos and the madness in the world happens, the more the fire ignites and I come alive. How many else feel more alive right now than they've ever done because of the madness of the world? Yes. Let that be your catalyst. You don't need me to light the flame under you. It's already burning. But putting the pieces together, the biggest thing that has driven me right to this point is being truly aware of my mission and cause on earth, my own personal path. And that sounds so simple, but it's so complex at the same time. It's so deeply paradoxical. It's so deeply paradoxical. It's so challenging to actually identify that single thing that you were willing to die for. But what I've learned is it's always there. Again, it's always there. Once you find it, it's like, of course. Of course. And many of those tools and experiences I've shared with you will help you find it. But I was given this simple line by one of my coaches about 6 years ago, Dan Sullivan. And he said, what's the one thing that you would do for the rest of your life or for eternity, even if you didn't get rewarded for it, you didn't get paid for it, you didn't get recognized for it, no one even noticed? What's the one thing that you would do willingly for the rest of your life? And I was like, I need a journal on that, and I'm going to need more than 30 minutes. At least that's what I thought. I wrote down that question, and the answer revealed itself. The answer revealed itself. And all of a sudden, that whole texture, all of the challenges I'd been through my life suddenly raveled up into this one little ball and said, you're here to help people to liberate themselves from their own challenges, just like you've been through. Because our own path, guess what? Has within it the seed of our own purpose. Our own path, our own journey, the own insights, our own experiences, texturize and inform that purpose. And when you claim it and own it and live it every single day, that guiding light, no matter what the mad world around you is doing, will shine a beacon. And believe me, you will still have times where it's like, ooh, there's some exciting ideas, and your brain goes, oh, how can I fit that into my world? I'm a multi-passionate guy. Like I can't constrain everything. But then you start to like, oh, I could actually put a bit of that in here, just like nature. You know, you don't make a monoculture of a meal when you have your dinner. You know, it's this rich texture of flavors and combinations. And there is no ideal combination set out there in the world, but there is an ideal combination for you that you are the crafter of, you are the designer of. You get to choose how you live your life. When we remove the shackles of the paradigms of how we're supposed to be, when we sit comfortably in the same place every single day and do the same things every single day, we have to remove those binds so that we can liberate ourselves, to be truly free to be ourselves, to truly unleash our gifts, to truly find that power, that potential within us, and to live it and breathe it every single day, to unleash ourselves, just to be able to say, breathe and step, one step at a time. Dance with a fear. And dancing, man. Who saw me at the front of the WFX show just giving it all? I would never in my wildest dreams even dream of dance. I used to go to like weddings and be like, no, dance floor, no. Why? I imagined that all the eyeballs were looking at me. And the weird thing is now in this situation, all the eyeballs are looking at me. Yeah, I was freaked out at the time when they weren't. No one's watching you on the dance floor. And if they are, it's because you got damn good moves. Or they got something that you want. I want some of that energy. Let me get into that. So let's lean into the chaos of the outer world. In the beginning of this talk, what I wanted to do by scrambling things up a little bit was to kind of simulate a bit of chaos, to get that discomfort in the body. Oh, I just sat down, I just got comfortable, all my stuff is here. I just found my friend who I haven't seen since the first day. Just to get that energy in our body again, because that energy will rise. And I heard a wonderful, and again, as a rock and roller, I heard this wonderful interview with Bruce Springsteen. You know the guitarist, right? Thousands of gigs. There was an interview that asked Bruce, they said to him, do you still get nervous before you go on stage? And this guy's done like thousands of gigs. Like he could probably play his songs in his sleep, like his muscle memory knows the tunes. I'd love to experiment with that. Here you go, Bruce. And he said, what was fascinating, he says, of course I get nervous every time. But the moment I plug in and I step on stage, that nervous energy turns into excitement. And the wonderful thing about this experience today, knowing what I was going to do today, because by the way, I actually wrote a speech for today, and I practiced it, and I decided by the pool this morning I'm not going to do it. It was a really good one. I think it was. I'll send you the transcript. I thought, what's the good of coming and doing a rehearsed talk today if my message is about getting uncomfortable, getting out of the comfort zone, embracing chaos? For things to change, we have to change. We have to be the change we want to see. So if I want to embrace chaos to another level, I'm just going to turn up and go freestyle. Inspired by my dear friends that I've witnessed over this week. But those who freestyle will tell me it's never completely off the cuff. There's patterns, there's thoughts and ideas that are percolating the entire time. They're swimming in ideas. But when they come into the moment, it all locks together and it's in the moment. So I thought I'm going to play with that so I can model it. So that hopefully when you walk out of this room and go home to your lives, when you see the chaos around you again, whether it's the chaos of the madness of the world or going back to family life, your kids are running around, or the washing up hasn't been done for days, you're whatever. Or you go back to the conversations of people who completely don't see the world the way that you do. You're reminded that it's all part of the dance, it's all part of the uncertainty, and it's a reminder to get back into that zone of I'm here to serve, I'm here to make a difference. And no matter what energy comes up around me, I can always center myself. Because that's the final lesson I learned from that moment when I stood on that, whatever you call it, crane, looking down at the heights, heart beating. Oh my God, the heart, I could feel it beating. Just like I was just now, a minute ago before I stepped on stage. But just like Bruce Springsteen, it turned into excitement straight away because I saw your beautiful faces. I'm not afraid of you guys. You're lovely. I could go to a very different crowd and try and do the same thing, and oh my God, that would feel very different. But here and here, I feel very at home. So I want you to be reminded when you go home, firstly, that you have this enormous potential within you that has expanded infinitely this week. And to try and claim the idea voluntarily that it is your duty now to not only liberate the ideas that you've experienced here today, but to liberate the gifts within you, to create a profound difference in the quality of your own lives and in the lives of others. Because what does it really mean to live free and prosper? To live free, firstly and foremost, is to live free within our own self, to live free of the inner critic. And what's fascinating is when you learn to live free of the inner critic, when the external critic comes, it goes off like water, because they will come. My dear friend Derek, I see all the comments, The side note, I've only got 2 minutes left, but side note, truth at top trumps. Have you ever seen this? It's like, this group does this, I can't believe you're not talking about this group on your channel. It's like, how deep do we want to go to the rabbit hole to learn the same lesson over and over again? How many groups and individuals and bloodlines you need to know that the simple message is that the world has got corruption, that the centralization of power is responsible for the destruction of humanity? It's all the same thing with different layers. How many more layers do you need to come back to the fact that, okay, how do we fix this? Let's do the opposite of being corrupt and live with integrity and truth and honest. I don't need to know every color and texture of the corruption. I just need to know that it's there and I can do something about it. Because if I spend my entire life in the fear and uncertainty and doubt, which is where we replace grand narratives with other narratives, then we literally psychologically and biomechanically shut the creative part of our body down that is responsible for igniting the potential within us. So when we come to a place like this and surround ourselves by people who are optimistic and hopeful and inspiring and energetic, that lights it and reminds you inside of yourself that that is who you are. But the world will keep trying to, thank you, but the world will keep trying to trick you otherwise. Sure, stay informed. You heard me on the media panel. It's what I do for a living. I'm not saying don't be informed, but transform being informed to awareness, and awareness is the first step to transformation. The key is understanding the gap between the awareness and the transformation that you are here to create in the world, and the commitment that you make to do whatever it takes, one step at a time, to unleash your potential so that you can truly live free by liberating yourself from these paradigms and stepping into your own creation, that beautiful, magnificent self, and then prospering. And I'll close by giving you the definition of what it means to prosper, because prosperity, and I thank my friend Jason Christoph, who loved Jason's talk on the first day. Yeah. Yes. He talked about, for those of you who weren't aware, he talked about the money paradigms that have been imposed upon us. No, where is it? Right at the bottom. How to leave on a good note. Well, I'm going to make it up. Based on the old Latin, prosperity, it means something akin to live well. To live well and with intention. I wish I could find it because it's beautiful. Look it up. Just look up the etymology of prosperity and liberate yourself from all the patterns of the world that make being prosperous bad. Because to prosper is to thrive. It's to live well intentionally. And by living free within ourselves, finding our passion, finding our purpose, and walking the path and taking those steps every single day, then not only will we live free, but we will prosper. And by prospering, we can make all the difference in the world around us. So my final message, with 43 seconds to go, out of all of the rich tapestry of things that you've learned over this week and over a lifetime, what is the one bold move that you can make in the next 24 hours of this event? Just one bold move. And if you've been listening, hopefully your brain will go with all these different possibilities. But then you come back to that guiding light within you, and you know that that's the one thing that you've been putting off. The one thing that you need to do. The one move that you're really called to make that you know you should have made a long time ago, but now is the time that you're going to make it. That one bold move. And the last bonus gift I'm going to give to you is this. The greatest challenge to our own mental being is often our unmade decisions. I call it decision debt. So I invite you to clear your debts in the next 24 hours. Take a piece of paper, take a journal, write down all the unmade decisions, no matter how small or how big. And just get them all on paper. You don't have to then sit down for the next week and go, decision, 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 but work through them one by one. You will clear your mind, and soon you'll be like Bruce Lee, mind like water. So my concluding message to you is you have everything you need within you now to live free and prosper. Thank you so much. I love you all.
Yes, yes, make some noise for Dan Aston Gregory, everybody.
Thanks, brother. Thank you, brother.
All right, yes, yes, look at that, Dan. Look at that love right there. Keep it going, yes. Powerful stuff. All right, thank you so much, brother, for gracing us with your presence. All right, we are so grateful for everybody who's been here. I'm glad we have most of the room here. I want to remind you guys again, we have one more presentation, and we're going to be wrapping the live stream, saying bye to everybody at home at about 4:15, and we would love everybody in this room to be here for our final announcement, get all our volunteers and speakers up here, get one more big family group hug, and then there's going to be lots of activities happening outside. So before we continue with our final talk of the afternoon, I want to invite my brother Sterling Lujan up to the stage for a moment. He's going to talk to us about Logos and some of his work as well. Come on up, Sterling. Give Sterling a welcome, everybody.
How's everybody feeling? I always have to start the conversation out by saying Ross is free. The idea that the libertarian mindshare has spread throughout the world is so vitally important, but we still have a huge fight ahead of us. And I just have a few tidbits before I share what we're doing at Logos and what I've been working on personally. So I think a lot about these systems that we're currently embedded in, and I think of a quote, I believe it was Stalin who said something akin to, show me the man and I'll show you the crime. So there's this idea embedded in society that governments can become so powerful that they can crush the individual at any time, and they can manufacture charges against you, which is exactly what happened to Ross. So us being able to escape and exit these systems, to build our own systems, to build our parallel societies, and to have a parallel activation is not only my personal modus operandi, but it's the agenda of the modern age. It's what we're trying to do. We're trying to push forward with white-pilled optimism because we want to create lasting change. We want to be able to transcend these systems and become better. We want to be and become better. It's all about a process of becoming and being, and that is an amazing thing. I can't imagine creating a paradigm shift without having the deep humanness that we all have right here at this event. So thank you all for being here, and thank Derek and Miriam for having us. Cool. So just briefly, you guys probably know I've been friends with Derek and Miriam for a long time. I've spoken at many of his events. Logos, the organization that I'm currently working with, we sponsored this event. And for any of you guys who didn't see my talk or who weren't at we had a dinner the other night, what we're trying to do is develop the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure for network states and parallel societies. And I don't just mean just digital infrastructure per se. This is technology that gives us back our privacy, our anonymity, that is decentralized, and that has those cypherpunk and crypto anarchist values embedded at its very core. So I invite you here to join the Logos community. It's our Discord. I know some of you are going to criticize that. Bear in mind, we've been around a long time. So we've been using Discord, but we're going to be upgrading to our own application, which is called Status and is built on Waku, which is our peer-to-peer protocol. So please join the community, see what we're about, and also start to learn more about network states and parallel societies. Aside from that, next slide, please. You can follow my work here. I have a blog called Counter Governance. I also have a blog called Deep Governance Research, and I update both fairly often. So please follow, and thanks again for being here at the event. We're going to continue to try to help out Derek and Miriam and the greater community at large. We want to continue to sponsor this event. We support all of the work that you are all doing, and there's just a ton of amazing people here, and I'm happy personally to be here among you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Sterling, and thank you to Logos for supporting us. And again, I want to thank everybody at home. I keep checking on the breaks, and more donations are coming in. So please make some noise for the people at home who are supporting. They're chilling at home, but they're supporting this movement so we can keep coming back. And like I said, we're going to make a big announcement after the next talk when we wrap up the live stream. We're going to talk about what's coming in January 2026. So you guys want to stay tuned, and I hope all of you guys will stay here for that as well. So now we come to our final presentation of the last 5 days. Can you guys believe it? You've heard 30 plus presenters, several panels. I think we had 40 plus workshops this year. Lots going on, and we're so grateful for it. So grateful for all the ways that you guys contribute. I just want to speak on that for a moment. You know, for those who are at home, you really only see what's happening on this stage, and it is a big part of what we're doing here. But what I love the most is just the ways that each of you contribute. You know, we really love having that sort of decentralized nature of the workshops that anybody can apply to, and anybody can offer their skills, their knowledge, whatever it is that they're excited about. And I think that's what makes the event so eclectic. You know, me and Miriam, I curate this stage, Miriam curates the rest of the workshops, but without you guys offering your knowledge, it wouldn't come together. So thank you guys so much for everybody who's hosted a workshop, everybody who's been a vendor, of course, all the sponsors. We're so grateful to each of you. Thank you for that. So now we're going to wrap things up with our final presenter, John Bush, who's been with this event since the beginning. And in the beginning, for the first couple years, we were doing, I think, an amazing feat, which is possible but stressful, to do the Greater Reset live in Texas and live in Mexico, with John with one live audience in a different venue in Texas, and me here with one audience in Mexico, talking to each other through the camera and streaming back and forth. And when it worked, it was amazing. And when it didn't, it was a lot of headaches. But we were so grateful that John held that same space, and they had the Greater Reset happening in Texas. And I know there's many more things to come with what John's got planned. And I'm excited for this presentation because John, like Dan and myself and many of our speakers, you may have noticed, are big thinkers. And we're trying to figure out, how do we solve these various problems, this holistic problem, and focus on holistic solutions, coming at it from so many different angles? And how do we think about laying the foundation for the infrastructure that is really needed for these parallel systems to thrive in the coming generations and for the coming generations? And so John's got some really big visions that I hope you guys will tune into and see how you might contribute to making this vision a reality. Please welcome John Bush to the stage, everybody.
All right. Okay. I'm going to pull it Dan. I got a speech prepared and notes, but we're just going to throw it out the door. Let me see. We got 2 mics, too. You guys are in a lot of trouble. All right. My name's John Bush, and I want to thank everybody for being a part of this incredible event. Big ups to Mr. Derek Bros. Give it up for Derek Bros, ladies and gentlemen. Woo! And his lovely lady Miriam, and her sister, and the We Are Not Zombies crew over there. Woo! After 6 days straight, they're looking a little bit like zombies now. No, they could probably do another 2 days. Derek was like, we were thinking about doing 7 days. I was like, what? This is a marathon, but oh my God, it's so amazing to spend so much time with each and every one of you and get to know you. And one of the insights that I've gained over the course of this week is that we're winning. We are winning. This movement has grown by leaps and bounds, and everybody is feeling so empowered and inspired. And there's so many incredible things going on all across the globe. It is a global movement, and I just want everyone to really take stock of that and to never lose sight of it. Of course, when we're here in person at this event, everyone's all pumped up and the vibe is high. And when you go back home, sometimes people get caught back in the monotony of day-to-day life, or as Napoleon Hill called it, the hypnotic rhythm, where you're just going through the grind and back to the old boring stuff. I want to encourage you, if you're ever feeling down, if you read a scary headline about some crazy policy or deportation this or technocracy that, just never lose sight of the success that we are having in this movement. And one of the things that I want to convey as part of my talk today is that we are already so damn free that the New World Order is shaking in its boots, and there's not a damn thing anyone or any agenda or any government can do to stop us from realizing the pure light and divinity that lies within each and every one of us. Yeah. Okay. All right. So one of the things that Derek said at the onset, he said, if you have an awareness of what's going on in the world, if you've quote unquote been red pilled, then you have an obligation to do something about it. Do you guys vibe with that? Do you guys feel duty bound or some obligation, right? As libertarians and freedom people, often we're like, obligation? Nobody tells me what to do. But I genuinely believe that if you have this knowledge and if you have gifts to share, which we all do, even if you haven't found those gifts, then not only are we duty bound to our fellow humans and our fellow human beings, but I believe that we are on a mission from God to change the path of humanity, because there's a lot of darkness in the world and it doesn't have to be that way. So I really want to encourage everyone. That's something I've been getting deeper into spirituality and studying the teachings of Jesus Christ and other great spiritual teachers. And it's something that I've taken a lot of faith in, because as we continue to reach to greater heights, there continues to be greater and greater resistance. And I'd like to share something about technical analysis trading that I learned trading cryptocurrency that I've since applied to the work that I've done with self-development. All right, does anybody ever trade crypto or stocks or anything? Yeah. All right. So I did it for a while. I was pretty good at it and made some money. Don't tell the IRS. What? Shit. But I kind of felt like I wasn't really contributing much. I was just staring at a screen and a bunch of candlesticks going up and down, and I didn't feel like I was giving back to the world. But nonetheless, I learned about this concept of support and resistance. So you guys know, even if you haven't traded, prices go up and down, and there's these green and red candlesticks or lines that show the price of something. Well, prices have a tendency to bounce between support or the floor. Let's say $90,000 with Bitcoin. 90,000, 90,500, 91, 90,000, right? They bounce between support and resistance. 92, 94, 95, 90, 99, 100. And then they go to 100, but it's like, we don't have the momentum to push through resistance. Okay? Prices have a tendency to do this over and over and over and over and over. And since traders know that, then they kind of manifest it. And so when it comes to self-development work, as we continue to do bigger and bigger things, as we continue to push through our comfort zone, we may find that we come up against resistance, right? Just the same, if we have some struggle or challenges in our life, we may find ourselves coming back down to support. And the challenge is, if we allow those struggles to get the best of us and we step into a place of wallowing and self-deprecation and fear, doubt, uncertainty, and overwhelm, we could bust through the floor down to a new floor of darkness. Just the same, we could push through the resistance and reach new heights. And there's a tendency when you push through the resistance that the previous resistance becomes the new floor. And now we've grown and there's lessons. So I'm going to share some stories about the journey that I've gone on along with my lovely wife and some of our community when it comes to exiting and building and getting outside of the city, buying land, doing the homestead thing, and building a community. And then the resistance and the support that I've come across that's made a big difference in my life. Do we have any self-development, self-help type folks in the audience? Let me see a show of hands. All right, cool. I just really want to encourage everyone that doesn't consider themselves a self-help or self-development. It could be practical success type stuff like Tony Robbins. It could be spiritual stuff as well. How long have I been talking? Like 3 minutes? 4 minutes? Okay, good. All right. Now I'm starting the timer. I left the timer off. We'll be here all evening. So I just really want to encourage everyone to become obsessed with self-development, because we can learn the tactics and the strategies all day long. But if our own limiting beliefs prevent us from implementing those tactics and strategies whenever we start to become uncomfortable, then we're not really going to be able to achieve our full potential. So I really want to encourage you guys to get really, really, really connected with self-development, spiritual work. Some of the people that raised their hand, who are some of y'all's gurus that you follow? Tony Robbins, he's great. He was one of the first guys I got into. Ed Milet, total badass. What else? Greg Radin, okay. Malcolm X, nice. Anything else? Satoshi Nakamoto, all right. He's got some good insights. Joe Dispenza, okay. What about spiritual self-development leaders? Of course, we have big ups to Jesus Christ, right? Eckhart Tolle, the Buddha, Dave Chappelle. What? Oh yeah, okay, all right. Your mom. Okay, good. Okay, good. All right. So I have found that in times of great struggle and pain, leaning on these teachings, internalizing these teachings has made a world of difference in my life. It wasn't that long ago. It was quite a long ago that I went through a really, really ugly divorce that was extremely difficult on me and my children. And I had already been primed with self-development work, Tony Robbins, Buddhism, nonviolent communication. I'd started reading Napoleon Hill, who taught that within every adversity lies the seed of an equal or greater benefit. And were it not for these teachings and basically programming myself to understand that in spite of challenges, loss, and difficulties, there's always lessons and wisdom to gain so I can become a better version of myself, I would have been a total mess. So when this happened, my life came down to support. And had it busted through and I began blaming myself and wallowed in victim mode or turned to substance abuse, then I could have really crashed through. But instead, I saw that there was turmoil in my life. I saw there was chaos and uncertainty, and I saw that this chaos and uncertainty was having a very negative effect on my children. So I decided that it was my responsibility this time to become the best version of myself that I possibly could be, so I can lift myself, my children out of it. And in doing so, I managed to manifest the most incredible woman into my life that has been so important to me. So that was the support, tiptoeing along there, moved back in with my parents for a few months. And that does a whole lot to your ego, of course, but it's like, it's all good. I'm here, and my mom makes some damn good meals. And my kids were there too, and eventually she's like, Mijo, you gotta go. Anyway, so that was support, but because I was programmed and primed with the self-development, and I understood that this is only temporary and that there are lessons that God and the universe and Creator are gifting me in this moment, I managed to take those lessons, internalize them, and continue on my journey towards growth and self-development. But it wouldn't be long before I hit resistance. Now, one of those resistance points, of course, was COVID-19, the plandemic, the scamdemic. You guys remember that? Sometimes we kind of just lose sight about how hardcore that whole experience was. Well, there was a lot of people that went into victim mode. Lockdowns, woe is me, business shut down, lost my job. And I don't want to denigrate folks that went through real struggle, but I do also want to point out that we have to guard ourselves from victimhood, because victimhood is such an easy place to be, because it allows you to shirk. Is that a thing? Shirk? Let's roll with it. It allows you to shirk responsibility and instead blame others for your circumstances. But in all reality, successful people, well-developed mindset, loving people take responsibility for everything in their lives. Every single thing, we've played a role in manifesting it into our lives. So we got to avoid victimhood and step into a place of empowerment. And so there was lockdowns in the city of Austin. It was like, you can't leave the house unless you're essential. And I thought to myself, what can I do to make myself essential? So I started going from gas station to gas station selling colloidal silver hand sanitizer, because there was like a shortage on hand sanitizer. In all honesty, the first month or two of COVID, I was like, this is crazy. I saw videos of people dying in China. And I've been aware of the New World Order since 2002. So I guess they even got me. But I do remember one day I went out to pump gas and I was using my little hand sanitizer on my hands. And I was like, what the hell am I doing? I'm literally like, the virus is all around us. In all reality, viruses are all around us. Kick him off the stage. Viruses aren't real. That's blasphemy. I really liked what that guy had to say up until that point. But nonetheless, I realized, like, what the hell is going on? This is absolute craziness. And that's where I started to like really see through the nonsense. But in the meantime, I had the most profitable month that I had ever had in my entire life at the height of lockdowns, because I chose to seize the opportunity to become empowered and not to wallow in that victimhood. Okay, so there's always problems that are going to present themselves, but there's always a solution. Where's my buddy here that was like, this whole solution thing, we need to avoid talking about solutions because that emphasizes problems. Where is he? All right, okay. So avoid the victimhood, step into a place of empowerment. It was also during this time that we revived the Central Texas Freedom Cell community. So this whole Freedom Cell, yeah, where are my Freedom Cell peeps at? Woo! All right, so the Freedom Cell thing was an idea back in 2014, 2015. It kind of sprinkled around here and there. Thank God Derek caught wind of it and really made some cool stuff happen in Houston, and then used his platform to spread it even further. But in all honesty, before COVID, it was just kind of limping along, and there were some big groups here and there, but it wasn't a giant global network that it is today. There was around 1,000 people that were participating, signed up on the website, freedomcells.org. Well, with COVID, of course, people now were like, what the heck's going on in the world? We're all freaked out. I know that this audience is different, but please allow yourselves to be the person that's consistently and persistently taking action towards greater freedom, prosperity, and community, because a lot of people only act when there's an emergency. And if you wait to act till there's an emergency, then you're going to be more easily manipulated and controlled, and you're operating from a reactionary paradigm, which in turn makes it easier for you to be leveraged towards supporting Donald Trump or doing some kind of nonsense that's not in alignment with what it is you truly want. So everyone's freaked out, lockdowns, you can't get together with more than 5 or 10 people in a room or whatever the hell the rule was. We didn't follow it. And we organized a giant Freedom Cell meetup, and there was like 65 people that showed up. And it was a time when there was a lot of fear and uncertainty. Speaking of fear, we started these meetings. And about the second or third one, we were having the meetings at somebody's community space where they do concerts and ecstatic dance and stuff. And there was this guy that was like, I was leading the meeting, and he started like undermining me and trying to make it appear as though I was going to get the owner of the establishment in trouble. And he just injected all this fear, like, we got to watch out for this place. We have to protect this place. We shouldn't be meeting up here. When in all reality, that's what people needed in that moment. Thankfully, the room was of the mindset that this is what we need. Let's not kowtow to fear. That was a conversation that had it. So that sprang up during the meeting. So I just really want to encourage you guys. Fear is a very powerful motivator. There's lessons that we can learn from fear, but in all reality, we can't allow fear to dictate our decisions, because fear, you say false events appearing real, more often than not, the government, the predator class, it's a boogeyman that we build up in our own minds. And in all reality, they only have that power which we grant to them. So when you can make a conscious choice to no longer allow them to control you, that, my friends, is when we experience true freedom. When in spite of what's going on in the outside, we are at peace internally. That is when we become sovereign. Are you with me? Yeah. All right. Okay, I also want to share at this time, this is something that springs up because I know there's a lot of people in our community that have broken relationships with family members. Maybe there was some trauma because of the vaccines. Maybe there's some trauma because how you're raising your kids and your parents, their grandparents aren't happy with it. Maybe you're one of those folks that just word vomits all over your family during Thanksgiving because your ego wants to be pet and loved because you felt like the black sheep your whole life. I was that back many years ago. Now there's somebody else that took my place in my family that does that. But I just want to share with you guys, what's more important than being right or proving your family wrong is having a strong bond and a loving, genuine relationship with your family. We need to set our differences aside and just come together and recognize that is critical. That's important. And I share that because my Uncle Ernest, who back in 2004 had a W04. You remember George W. Bush? He had a W04 bumper sticker. And I was already awake and anti-war and anti-George Bush, although I thought I was a Democrat. Saw through that later. But he later got turned on to Alex Jones and replaced the W04 with the InfoWars bumper sticker. But he was quite extreme. And I wasn't there. I don't think this would have gone down had I not been there. But he got in a huge shouting match with my dad. And my dad's awake too. He used to work at the underground bookstore that I used to operate for a couple years. But he was just kind of perturbed about my uncle, who was so vehement against the masks and like really ugly about it. It's one thing to be like, hey, these masks are kind of silly. I don't even think they work. I'm not going to wear one. You should consider not wearing it. It's another thing to be like, you guys are slaves for wearing the mask, yada, yada, yada. This was his style. He thought that COVID wasn't real. He thought it was a total scam, fugazi. And there was a huge division in my family. And of course, because he was disrespectful, I was like, well, I don't want to have anything to do with my uncle the way that he treated my father. I wish I would have been there to stand up for my dad and kind of play the middle path, because I agreed with what he says, but not the manner in which he presented it. Long story short, my uncle ended up getting sick. And because he thought the virus was totally fake and it's all a scam, he stayed in his apartment by himself, and he didn't go to the hospital. He didn't seek any support or any natural remedies. And he was taken to the hospital in an ambulance, and he died a day or two later. And there was never the opportunity to heal that relationship, because I loved my uncle. He was one of my mom's only siblings that would show up to every single family event. And it was a huge loss for her and a huge loss for our family. And looking back, I wish I just would have let that go and still loved the guy and been compassionate for him. So I just really want to strongly reiterate that nothing is more important than the relationships that we have with our family, with our friends, and our community. And we should not let these differences divide us and distract us from what really matters, which is that connection. Come on. All right. Okay, so after I lived with my parents for a few months, I upgraded and rented a few rooms in my good friend Emilio's place. There he is right there. That's my man. Give it up for Emilio, ladies and gentlemen. I was like, I got to tell you, Emilio, if I'm going to move into your place, I got 2 kids that I could describe as feral. And so we were upstairs, and he had a little bedroom right downstairs. So I don't want you to feel annoyed or tense. He's like, no, it's okay. I got you, brother. And I know he felt annoyed and tense anyway, but he loved me so much. He's such a good guy. So thank you, Emilio. But this was great. It was an upgrade for my parents, but it still wasn't ideal. I was a grown man. I wanted to have my own place. I got my lovely girlfriend at the time, who on one of our first dates, I asked her to help me clean out my minivan. That was just full of crap. And the windows wouldn't roll down. And the AC didn't work. And that's how I knew that she wasn't in it for the money. Because I didn't have any. And we leaned pretty heavy on her credit card. I thought she was going to say, and we still do. So me and Becca were dating, and we were just spending all the time together. She was staying in San Marcos at the time on a 50-acre property, and she was coming up, commuting with me. Every once in a while, I'd go stay down with her, and we wanted to live together. She got a really cool job selling tiny homes in this intentional community, which she learned so much, and we actually had the opportunity to move into her tiny home and live there free of charge because it was part of her work arrangement. There's a quick lesson in there for folks that are feeling like they're struggling financially. There's opportunity when you're able to think creatively. And in all honesty, what I shared before, like when you can overcome those limiting beliefs and you can just with so much conviction, align yourself and just know with certainty that you are going to achieve your goals, you'll find that God, creator of the universe, begins to conspire in your favor if you're open to the opportunity. And that was an opportunity that was so beneficial for our family. But at the same time, we were living in a 399 square foot tiny home with me, my girlfriend at the time, and my 2 kids. We were still going through legal struggles with all this divorce craziness. It was affecting the kids negatively. It was an extremely difficult period because we were on top of each other, and they didn't have their own space, really. We carved out these little mini bedrooms with little wall dividers upstairs in the loft for the kids. It wasn't optimal, and we decided we were going to finally fulfill our big dream of owning land. So we started to get real clear on what our vision was. And here's another great tip or tactic that someone can use for doing anything in life. Get extremely crystal clear on what it is that you want in life. Because if you don't know what it is that you want, how can you ever hope to attain it? So we wrote down a list of like 10 characteristics for our place. 10 acres or more, within 45-minute drive to Austin and our family that's there. We wanted it to be partially pasture, partially wooded. We wanted a guest house. There was all sorts of stuff. And we ended up finding a property that checked off 7 of those 10 things. And now the question is like, well, how the hell are we going to pay for it? So Rebecca was doing great and had an incredible income and managed to put some money aside for our down payment. This was jacking with my ego and my masculinity because she had all the money together and I was still scrapping by financially, my little fledgling kratom business. And I said, you know what? I believe that this is our destiny. I want to be an equal contributor to our down payment. So it was at that time that I started Live Free Academy, the company that I'm here today representing. We put together an offer to teach people about cryptocurrency. I'd never done an online course or anything before. I've been talking about crypto, teaching people about crypto. We put together an offer, and the very first 2 or 3 days, I managed to make $140,000 by selling a $200 course. And it was such an eye-opener. And it revealed many things to me. Among them, it showed me like, wow, I have been limiting my own success by thinking that abundance and prosperity at that magnitude is inaccessible to me, that it takes so much hard work in order to accomplish something like that. But in all reality, whenever I just said, I'm going to share my gifts with the world and ask for a couple $100 in exchange, it absolutely exploded. And so I was able to contribute. We ended up getting a mortgage, and we bought a 10-acre homestead in Central Texas, just east of Austin. We call it Radical Roots Ranch. It was awesome. We absolutely loved it. And this was us, right? But we hit resistance and came back down to support because sure enough, right after we moved in, not only was it crazy expensive to furnish the place, but we realized that we had to get a new air conditioner. And then the water heater broke and flooded the kitchen and destroyed all the cabinets. All that had to get replaced. I don't know, there's a whole list of other things. We needed new appliances, all sorts of stuff. So this was like, wow, home ownership. I was always a renter and stuff. We never really had to pay for all that stuff. So this was a huge eye opener. But it didn't break us. We said, you know what? We're going to commit. We're going to continue to work. We're going to make this happen. We're going to overcome these financial struggles. And we were able to make that happen. We added a solar system onto the home. We got chickens. We got ducks. We have quail now. And so that was us living on the property. But now we're like, it's always been our ambition, not just to have a homestead with just Rebecca and I, but to have a community, because it really takes a village. And I know that there's so many people in this. Raise your hand if you're somebody that desires to live in community, as in cooperatively living together with other people. Okay, pretty good chunk. Excellent. I was reflecting on that earlier. Why is there such a strong desire for that? And I think a lot of us missed out on really authentic human connection and relationship. And we're desiring that. We're seeking that because we missed out on it. Well, this is something that we desired. It's something that both Becca and I wanted for many years independently of each other. And so we said, hey, let's make this happen. So we put 3 RV pads on the 10-acre homestead, and we have 2 community members now that are permanent. One of them's a family, and they have 3 kiddos. The 3rd child was actually birthed on the property in an unassisted birth in our guest house. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Wow. I tell you, I have so much respect for women in birthing, whether it's in a hospital or home or assisted or unassisted. Woo! Give it up for the ladies, the creators. That's right. So now we have an extra amenity, a birthing center on site. So they're there. And then Ryan Manitti. Is there Lift Free Academy clients that know good old Ryan? Ryan's great. He's my right-hand guy, great guy. I think I'm a little too hard on him, though. I hope it doesn't run off. But to be honest, just some little vulnerability. The two people that I'm closest to right now that are in my life regularly, my lovely wife and Ryan, are the people that I treat the poorest. You guys resonate with that? Now, of course, I'm great to my lovely wife, but I treat her sometimes like an ass, anger, and like raising my voice and stuff. Same thing with this guy. It's because they're closest to me. What is that all about? Because I feel comfortable with them? When Miriam was talking earlier, I was like, this is stage therapy when she started the thing, right? And Rebecca, too, it's like stage therapy. So, all right, we're not going to get too deep into stage therapy. Anyway, Ryan lives on the property with his lovely wife, and there's a family that lives there. And then our good friend Jeff is staying there with us temporarily as well. And we actually have ambitions to create 4 other pad sites on this property in order to have more people living there. But I got to tell you, there was 2 community members that we really leaned heavily on that moved on. One of them was a nomad. It was in his name. Nomad. So I guess we should have assumed he wasn't going to be there forever. The other one was great as well. But I'm going through the ups and downs. And this was actually one of the downsides because we had them there as part of our community, but they ended up rambling on. And looking back, I think it might have been because we leaned too heavily on them and relied on them too much. And maybe they felt like that was out of balance. So I just really want to encourage people when it comes to living in community, one of the most important things that you could do is keep the channels of communication open and always, always, always be self-reflecting and do check-in meetings with people, because there may be people that are harboring resentment or feeling frustrated or annoyed and they don't have the courage to bring it up to you. But if you check in regularly, it creates that opportunity. So that was a hard part of living together that we were able to overcome. And we got some amazing community members now. Okay, so all the while, we got this 10-acre homestead. And Rebecca and I have been priming about doing this big 100-acre development. So we have the homestead. We barely even use like 2 or 3 of the acres. But for some reason, Rebecca and I are like, let's get a bigger property and let's do this huge, ambitious thing with 120 community members and a Texas-shaped lazy river. And we started putting this out, and we started working towards this. And so here we are. You know, we got our 10-acre homestead. Things are going great. Back to the support and resistance. And we're coming up. We got this big ambitions. We want to go bigger. We want to do this big replicatable model and build it. But we hit resistance because in all reality, we didn't have the skill set to build that, but the skills come easily. I don't think we were spiritually ready. And to come back to the vulnerability, at this time, I started getting anxious and insecure about it because I was so overwhelmed with the workload that we already had. And I started lashing out against my lovely wife. And in the moment, I wasn't aware of that's a huge part of what's going on here. But upon further reflection, I realized, man, I was like self-sabotaging what it is that I wanted because I didn't feel like I deserved it and I didn't feel like I was ready. So I really want to encourage you guys, if you have ambitious goals or any goal for that matter, just be aware as you continue to move towards those goals closer and closer, especially if you push through that resistance and you're like impressed. You're like, wow, I actually pulled that off. You may find yourself self-sabotaging. What that comes back to is that inner voice that we all picked up. Oftentimes being bullied in school, or maybe one of our parents was putting us down. And you're like, you don't deserve this. You can't pull this off. You're not capable of this. You don't have the knowledge to do it. So rather than being aware of that and quieting that voice, shut the fuck up. Of course you can do it. You end up self-sabotaging. And I realized later that's exactly what I was doing. We still have ambitions to do this big development, but we realized, like Miriam said, work with the tools you have, right? Work with the tools you have. We already have a 10-acre homestead that we live on. We already have community members there. We already have food production systems going. Why won't we just build that out, prove to ourselves we can make it happen, create a model there, and then expand from there, right? So one thing that was another friction point as we were working towards this 100-acre development, we spent thousands of dollars on an attorney to create a real estate syndication. This is when I was more profit-minded, business-minded. This development, in addition to being a great place to demonstrate, exit, and build and live together in community, it's also going to be a profitable opportunity for investors, and we're going to build wealth with this. And so we need to have a LLC and a 506C, and we got to have accredited investors that can have an expected return on their investment, and we're going to do this pro forma analysis, blah, 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 blah. And we realized after working with this attorney, and we paid him like $6,000, and we didn't even complete the thing because he had no idea what we're talking about with some mumbo jumbo community. They're used to apartment complexes. And we just got an email from the guy saying we still owe $900. But they didn't even finish the job. And so as soon as we get back to Texas, wait a second. It's not easy to argue with an attorney about stuff like that, but we'll figure it out. Anyway, long story short, we realized that what we were trying to do using these old matrix systems was causing friction because we're trying to create the new earth. We're trying to create a community that's in alignment with our values as free, powerful, beautiful human beings. And by using legacy systems that are profit-oriented, that have to ask permission from the government, that people get involved with in order to make money, it wasn't in alignment and it wasn't jiving, and it was creating so much friction and frustration because we just couldn't wrap our heads around how to make it happen. Well, around this time, Rebecca was in Costa Rica visiting Earthwaking Village, and there's this guy that was there, and that's a part of their community, and we'd heard about him before. We did a meeting with him in River Amani, and she's like, you guys got to check this guy out. It's all about the private realm and private membership associations, and it's not about profit or wealth. It's about stewarding the land and stewarding God's creation. And old John was like, that sounds like a bunch of hippy-dippy mumbo-jumbo, just waiting for the government to come kick the door down. We ain't doing that. We're trying to build wealth here. Yeah. I wasn't open to all that private realm stuff, in all honesty. I thought it was like, you can do this stuff, and the government's still going to come crack the whip, and it's not in alignment. It's just hippy-dippy, like sign the black card with the Treasury Department, this, that, and the other. But I've since come around to it in a major way. And Becca was down in Earthwaking Village, and she didn't even know Bradley Logan was going to be there, but he was there. Jonathan England introduced him to her. We met Bradley, who speaks. Is Bradley in here? There he is. There's my guy, Bradley Logan. So, yeah, give it up for Brad. And so we meet with Brad, and it's funny because the first meeting that I had with Brad, like 6 months before this period, not before today, but we met with Brad, and he's like, yeah, man, you know, it's all in the private realm. We're doing divine law and God's work. And I was like, this fucking hippie guy, what the hell? This guy's weird. Who is this guy? Because I wasn't open to it. I was insecure. I was afraid. I didn't have the confidence to put myself forward and trust that if we're doing God's work on this planet, we're going to have the protection that God will provide so we can continue to move the ball forward towards light, away from darkness, right? And so we did another meeting with him, and it clicked. He communicated the same message, but I was more open to receive that message. And since then, we have started a ministry of nature. It's called Freedom Family Fellowship. Our mission is to help others find harmony within themselves, find harmony with one another, and to find harmony with the land. And it's our belief when we can achieve that greater harmony, we can deepen our connection with God. And that's what our ministry of nature is all about. It's a 508c1a, meaning we don't file a 990. We don't report any money that comes in to the organization. We have a non-statutory trust that stewards resources. So right now we have a bank account. This was really freaking cool, by the way. I don't know if y'all heard Bradley's talk, but it's this Trinity model. So you have a 508c1a. That's in the United States, but you can also start a church or a ministry of nature in other countries as well. We have a non-statutory trust that stewards resources. And then we have a private membership agreement that operates the agreements and the understandings amongst the people that are participating in this ministry of nature or the other PMAs that we have associated with our church. And I tell you what, it was extremely liberating to open a bank account without having any legal document or any permission asked from the government whatsoever. Now, the woman, the banker, was kind of like, what the heck are you guys talking about? And they're like, well, I got to check with the legal department to see if we're able to do this, because it was just a non-statutory trust. You don't hand over your trust documents. You give them a minimal amount of information. But a lot of people go into that relationship from a place of fear like we're doing something wrong and there's some sketchy stuff going on here, but nothing could be further from the truth. We're simply trustees that are opening a bank account that will serve as a bridge between the private realm and the matrix world, because there still is value from time to time in having a bank account, having deposits come in, being able to steward resources, like what entity or what organization can hold title to a piece of land. So I said, I've got to check with the legal department. And then they got back with me and they're like, well, do you have a certificate of formation? That's what you get whenever you start an LLC or a nonprofit. And I'm like, no, it's an unincorporated church. And they're like, hold on one sec. They go back to the legal department. Okay, come on in and sign the documents. I was like, so this stuff works. We have the church. We've received crypto donations. We've received dollar donations. We're now organizing an effort to bring some resources in so that we can pay off our mortgage and put our existing community in trust in the private realm. We do have ambitions to fundraise, to bring on resources, to acquire a larger property. But one thing that I've had an insight during this amazing event is we always seem to be desiring something out there in the future that we haven't attained yet. This freedom, a free society, we'll have it all figured out in the future, when in all reality, everything that we have, everything that we need, we have right now. This is something that DAG, can you guys help me start a trend of calling him DAG instead of Dan? DAG? DAG. This is something that, you guys with me on that? All right, DAG. Thanks, DAG. Great talk, DAG. So DAG was like, yeah, everything that we need, we have right now, right? And so one of my self-reflections during this event is I'm always desiring something bigger and grander and better. And maybe you guys resonate with that, right? Like, we got to get the land. We got to move to the community. We got to figure out the crypto. I can't wait for my crypto wallet to go up in value, blah, 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 blah. And that creates this friction and this discontent within ourselves. And so I just really want to encourage you guys and encourage myself to do everything we can to recognize that we have everything we need right now, to be at peace with that, and to understand that it's internal, it's the inside game, it's a spiritual game, it's a mindset game that determines how free we truly are. So even if we think we're politically free, we're not buying into their system, but we're always yearning for something bigger, something more, then that, my friends, is a form of enslavement in and of itself. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay, so I really want to encourage people to work with the tools that you have, just like Miriam said, to recognize that we're already free right now. We are doing a summit. We're doing a virtual summit coming up in February where we're going to teach people, if you're looking for a community to move to, we're going to help you connect with your communities and to highlight some really cool freedom communities. If you're wanting to buy land and start your own community, or if you already have a community, you're looking to expand it, to grow it, to take it to the next level, we're hosting this event. It's absolutely free. You guys can sign up at livefree.academy/community, livefree.academy/community. I think it's February 22nd and 23rd. So that's coming up. We're doing the Exit and Build Land Summit again. This time we're going to be at Joel Salatin's Polyface Farms. So for those of you that are familiar with Joel, he does incredible work. He's a renegade. He does a lot of awesome stuff when it comes to regenerative agriculture. We really love him too, because he not only does he do the work with regenerative agriculture, but he's also quite the rebel. And since he's been speaking at the events, the Exit and Build events, he's actually adopted Exit and Build language just in his day-to-day life, which is really cool, planting seeds everywhere that we can. So I want to invite you guys to check that out as well. So here's what I believe is fundamentally important for our movement. The community piece couldn't be more important. I strongly believe that in an ideal world, we are living in community on the same piece of land outside of the cities. I know that's not for everyone. We don't want to leave our friends in the cities behind. So when I say community, I mean communities as in people cooperatively living on the same land, an intentional community, but also freedom communities with people that know their neighbors and they're connected with other freedom lovers in the area. I think that it's by time that we get organized amongst all of these tribes, right? There's so many different people all over the planet, all over the world, and there's a predator class too. And we think that the predator class is all powerful and they got all these big goals and they're accelerating their technocracy, which they are. But in all reality, we outnumber them vastly. Even the people in our freedom movement, we outnumber them, but they out-organize us. They have plans, they have goals, they have regular meetings that they do where they're like, how are we doing on advancing our 2030 agenda, our sustainable development goals? So I really want to encourage folks in your own lives to become more goal-oriented. One of the things that we do at Live Free Academy is teach people to come up with an activation plan. And the activation plan is essentially your most critical and your most important exit and build goals. And one thing you could do to kind of prioritize where to start is to use Napoleon Hill's concept of accurate thinking and to just get real with yourself and recognize what areas of my life am I most dependent on the beast system, right? So some people are growing food and they're connected with the local community supported agriculture program, but all of their income comes from Social Security. Or some people have crypto and they've been trading outside the system for years now, but all of their food comes from the grocery store, right? So just get real with yourself and identify if the government or the predator class were to try to twist my arm into getting me to do something that I don't want to do, would I be able to say no because I've become independent of their systems? So that's a great mental exercise that you can do. Yeah, it's a great mental exercise to do in order to really identify where to start. And then from there, you come up with concrete goals, measurable goals, specific goals, goals that have targets and dates. And those goals, you really think like, okay, well, if my goal is to get 25% of my food from my own property and from local food sources, get food from someone whose hand I've shaked, what do I need to do in order to make that happen? Well, first, let me put together a list of all the places in the area, and I'm going to go start visiting them. Okay, first, let me see what is the growing season right now. How many garden beds do I need to do? Let me invite a permaculturalist to come, blah, 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 blah. Just really think in terms of strategy. What is it going to take in order to accomplish this goal, right? But don't stop there, of course. Find other people in your area or even online that have similar goals and work together and be accountability partners and support one another. Okay, guys? So that's in our own life. But the exit and build thing is twofold. There's the inner exit and build game, and then there's the meta exit and build strategy game. That's where we achieve goals and we work together as a community, right? So we learned from Hannah Maria, who's doing so much incredible stuff, and they're like advanced in their organization, and they're still learning and still growing. What worked for you guys? What does the PMA membership agreement look like? What are the types of activities that you do? Derek just got the land over here. What type of process are you guys going through to vet people and to meet people? We create a hive mind, in essence, because we're stronger when we work together. There's knowledge that's out there that some people have that others don't. So let's work on our own exit and build goals to become independent and prepared. But because we all have compassionate hearts and because we recognize that we're not just in this for ourselves, we're in it for the future 7 generations that are yet to be born, let's work together and collaborate to create systems that will lay the foundation and be the infrastructure that future generations will inherit so they have free time to be creative, to connect deeper with their spiritual selves without having to worry about this oppressive predator class that's breathing down their neck. Yeah. And on that same note, one thing that I've recognized, and I had the insight last night, was the concert last night. There's been so much going on. This 5-day thing's really getting to me. It's a lot. And imagine being Derek and Miriam, the ones that aren't just like enjoying it and talking and workshopping. They're like making sure everything's going. So let's give it up one more time for Derek and his team. Woo! But I came to realize, walking through this concert, seeing all you beautiful people dancing, seeing DAG get out of his comfort zone and mix it up, seeing all these incredible artists, just seeing the artists and the diversity of music. We have our own culture. We have our own music for our movement, right? But seeing everybody living in the moment in a state of pure bliss, to bring it back to how I started the talk, we've already won. We're already free right now. Let us not allow fear of the unknown, fear of the predator class create stress within us. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be urgent in achieving more freedom, more prosperity. building these communities, but let's align not with distress. Distress is what happens when you're constantly being inundated with fear porn, with sensationalist headlines, when you spend a significant amount of your time and you point a significant amount of your attention towards the problem. It leads to distress. That's my cue. It leads to distress, and distress takes us out of a state of freedom, harmony, and balance. So rather than focus on the bad things in the world, focus on the world that you want to live in. Focus on the beauty and the wonder and the connections and the dancing and the bass and the beats and the music and the friendship and kinship that you've had at this event. And recognize that at the end of the day, even if we didn't do any more work, we've already accomplished what we came here to do. We are free, beautiful, powerful human beings. And the more we come to recognize that, the more that we focus on that which we want in life, the more we'll be able to shine with that creative light and divinity that lies within each and every one of us. So thank you so much for being a part of this movement. It's an honor to be here with you guys. Peace and freedom. Let's go.
Yes, make some noise for John Bush, everybody. Woo! Wow. I can't believe it, but we are near the conclusion of this event. We have a few more things in person, of course, but we're getting ready to say goodbye to our friends at home. I just want to make a couple of announcements real quick. After this, after the networking at 5, for those in person, I'm going to be at my table sitting for a little while. If anybody wants me to sign their books or come by to say hello, I will be there around 5 o'clock. Also, we have a special announcement about 26. I was kind of sharing earlier that, well, first let me get Miriam to come on stage for this part. Come up here, baby, if you will. Bring Pugsley with you. Please welcome Miriam to the stage. First, I know that we both just have an immense gratitude for each and every one of you here and those at home and everybody who has shared the event, told your friends about it, came here as a volunteer, a speaker, performer, just an attendee, workshop host, the live painters. Like, we're so grateful to everybody. And we've been transparent and real that this event is costly, it is stressful, etc. There's times when her and I are bickering at each other as we're trying to make sure all the pieces fit and everything's working out. But we remind each other that this is why we're doing it, to bring you guys together, to have something that we think is important, is necessary right now. And so I know that I can speak for myself and probably for both of us that when we walk outside and we see all of you doing your workshops and sharing your gifts and laughing, and we see friends that we know from one area of our life or one part of the world connecting with each other, and we see friends trying to speak Spanish or friends trying to speak English, we know that the efforts we're putting in are worth it. And I know that this is going to go somewhere big. And I just want you guys all to hold this moment. If we could just take a nice deep breath together, maybe a moment of silence, and just reflect on the last 5 days. I hope you guys will hold this space and these memories with you. This is just the beginning of the year. You've got a whole another 12 months before we see you again here in Morelia and hopefully throughout the year. But please do not let this activation, this motivation, this inspiration, this hope that you felt fade when you get on that plane and you get on the buses and you make your way home, wherever that may be. Hold this space with you. Hold these memories with you. Take the People's Reset with you. Take the activation with you. Spread it as far and wide as you can. And come back and see us and bring all your friends.
Thank you guys so much for showing up for the event, for yourselves, for your community. I really see so much love in all of you, and I appreciate you guys stepping up and getting activated, showing up for a nice reset for yourselves, and to integrate the reset that we're all creating here together. So remember, I trust in the tools I have, and we move forward day by day. Thank you guys so much for being a part of this.
And thank you guys. And we'd like to now invite all of our speakers on stage with us. Everybody who spoke on the stage, whether you want a panel, and also all of our musical performers, if we can get our live painters up here too, if Jack's in the room, if Myra's in the room, all of our volunteers, we would love all of our volunteers up here. Everybody who helped make this happen. Vendors, even if you were a vendor here and you want to come up on stage, you help make this happen as well. Vendors, speakers, performers, volunteers, live painters, everybody who played a role. And of course, we have the We Are Not Zombies crew behind the cameras. Make some more noise for them. We couldn't do this without them. Come on in, everybody. Feel free to tighten up. We're going to get some photos, and I just want everybody at home to see, what it really takes to make this happen. Come on up, all these beautiful people. Yeah, keep making some noise for these amazing folks, the talented, beautiful, so many ideas, so many services to offer, so many gifts. Come on up, Paula. Let's get everybody up here who volunteered. We're so grateful to each and every one of you guys. And as I mentioned before, we start working on this event 6 months out. In June, we will start announcing the dates for 2026. And if you want to be a speaker, if you want to be a performer, if you want to be a vendor, nominate yourself. Use our forms on our website. If you're on our email list or our Telegram channel, you'll see us announce it. But right now, if we could get that up on the screen, Ramiro, we would like to announce that we are selling tickets for the People's Reset 2026. It's going to happen in January of next year. We don't have the dates yet. But for the next 24 hours, the tickets are only $88. So if you know you're going to come back for sure, I encourage you to go to the peoplesreset.org, check out the tickets page. For the next 24 hours, they'll be $88. For the next 2 weeks, there'll be $100. We don't know the speakers yet. We don't know the dates exactly, but it will be in Mexico, it will be in Morelia. And you can go ahead and secure your spot now if you know you want to come back. So we just wanted to make that announcement. Please make some noise for all of our performers, speakers, everybody who made this happen. We're so grateful to each and every one of you. Couldn't do this without everybody here. Everybody at home, hey, look at this camera. This is the folks at home. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next time. You are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.